crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones, only on the GCN Radio Network.
Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are here live. We are then also live Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. 5 days a week is not enough. We come in on the weekend because so much always happens on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have him for the next hour and a half, and we're going to open the phones up later in the next hour for Mark Kornke. Mark Kornke, of course, one of the leading figures in the resistance against the New World Order from back in the early 1990s right through to today. Bill Clinton tried to blame him for the Oklahoma City bombing, along with a lot of other people just totally made up. McVeigh was running around to hundreds of different patriot groups trying to create a ledger or a history. We now have sworn affidavits confirming that, and it's come out that the Southern Poverty Law Center was running him and the Elohim City fake white supremacist compound. And McVeigh ran all over the country to hundreds of groups, Waco, you name it, to then connect those groups later. And in sworn affidavit, that is now what Terry Nichols has said there in his federal prison, that, yes, McVeigh said, I'm a U.S. government operative, I'm doing this for patriotism. Of course, we already knew that and had video of him at military bases after he was supposedly out. We had the internal state police reports, but that's all coming up. We'll get Mark to briefly talk about the history so we can understand the future, and then I also want to get his take on what's coming up with Iran. If we go into martial law, how he thinks things will unfold. Mark's got a great, sharp mind, and of course worked with Army intelligence as well, and has woken up so many countless people. So we're really happy to have Mark joining us today. Folks, I released Truth Rising on July 4th. I could have waited to the fall to release it, which is always a better time for video sales to release a film. But because it needs to be seen by everyone, I released it literally within just a few weeks of it being done, as we released it the day before the DVDs arrived from being mass-produced. And I'll just be point blank with the audience. There's a huge buzz on the Internet. It has been ripped all over the web, which we want. It is getting already millions of views on Google and hundreds of thousands on YouTube, and it's all over the file-sharing networks, one of the biggest files being downloaded on the file-sharing networks, and that's great. But we need to get outside the Internet audience. It's amazing that you can have something be seen by more than 1 million people in a week, but then you can sell a few hundred of them. And the film cost $70,000 to make. I mean, I paid the people, most of them, for the footage we got, who were 9/11 truthers. Even though they were offering it for free, I would still pay them. I had to fly to New York twice, go all over the place, pay for the music to be made. 2 years making this, $70,000. And at the rate we are selling these, we will never even pay it off. And so I would ask listeners who've seen it online, even if you're a PrisonPlanet.tv member and you've seen it in high quality, to order the DVD at Infowars.com. The DVD needs to be seen, plus it's in super high quality. It's a great encoding. It was shot in high def, but then crunched down to the regular DVD format, so it plays on all the players. But it looks like film. And it is an amazing, the history of the 9/11 Truth Movement, how the globalists carried out the attacks, the key info, how the police are trying to set up 9/11 truthers, trying to plant bombs on us, how the media is attacking us in a concerted effort. It's important to say who we are, and it grows the movement, and it shows people how to take over media events. Evidenced by 2 days ago, CNN, Fox, ABC, live on C-SPAN, huge news. They brought up, We Are Changed, 9/11 Truth, brought up questions to McCain. We're going to Mark in a minute, but I've got to get this out and get his take on it. Brought up questions to McCain about, well, you were the guy that founded PNAC, Project for American Century, that called for terror attacks in the U.S. They read quotes from it. And McCain looks down, gets upset, and looks really scared and turns and walks away. The body language is, to anybody who doesn't even have criminology training, to just a layman, is, my God, he looks like, you just pulled out the murder weapon in front of him. And then he stumbles through it, and everybody saw this for what it was. I mean, in the film, we went and confronted Gary Hart, and he admits, yes, the U.S. government stages terror attacks. This is the head CFR guy who was clearly involved. Folks, they are cracking up. We have shaken them up. They've got all this arrogance, all this aplomb, all the chutzpah, all this bravado, and it's falling apart now, and major polls show the majority know they did it. But let me tell you something. If we don't fully expend our energy now, waking up people that don't know it's an inside job and showing the social proof of how big we've gotten, they're going to be able to carry out more attacks, and then it's going to be a hot war, and it isn't going to be pretty. We can fully discredit them. Folks, I've got stacks of news here, and I want to get into that with Mark later, but I got to get to Mark, where we now have identified who the prime suspects are with the thermate, who the bombers are, their names, and we've got engineers like Kevin Ryan coming out, physicists like Stephen Jones coming out with their names. We have got, it is exponentially growing. It is people are paying attention now. We've engineered, reverse engineered back who did it, how they did it, everything. I mean, we're getting close, folks, and that means the enemy is dangerous. Okay? The enemy is dangerous, and attacking Iran is like a bank robber when they're in the corner grabbing a hostage. They need a war to smoke screen it, or staging a nuke attack. They could do anything. And so we need to get Truth Rising out on DVD, also because they can shut the web down, and then you're not going to have a way of really getting these around to people. We need... Folks, if you've got an old car, go sell it, get $5,000, go buy a DVD duplicator for $100, buy 5,000 blanks and make copies and have your area knee-deep. I mean, you better get aggressive right now. This is the maximum effort right at the end. We are at the very end here, folks, before the next level. And we're going to shape what that next level is. Are we going to let them have the momentum? Are we going to let them be on the offense as we go into a hot war, or are we going to be on the offensive ourselves and kick their butt? Mark Kornke, what do you say to that analysis?
Well, actually, that's one of the most important things, Alex, right now, is that everybody needs to simply speak their mind. And watch the response of the characters around you. I do this every day, every place I go. Two things happen. Number one, I've got people walking up to me that know me for probably pretty much all my life, and some of them were quiet. They didn't want to say anything back when we were trying to explain about things like the MJTF, the dropping of U.S. borders, the attack on our sovereignty. But now they're coming up and going either they're saying two things. What do I do? That's my favorite. And when do you think it's going to start? Now, these are people who were always staying in the periphery, or I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime. The problem is this. For these people, the most important thing that changed them is that years ago, I didn't hesitate to say, here's what's going to happen, this is what they're up to, this is who they are, this is where it's going. Now, everybody out there listening needs to do the same thing. And one of the things about videos, remember, when you walk away, that video is still there. If a person with a DVD in hand looks at it and gets a little overwhelmed, what they'll do is they can shut it off. They can walk away. I know a lot of people have told me this. I watched what you were saying, and I had to shut it off because I had to sit and think for a while. I had to mull it over. I had to work it because there's just so much information, which is true. However, one of the most important things we need to understand is we are dealing, just as you said, with a criminal set of minds. These criminals are involved in high treason. That is the simplest way to describe it. They are employees that are betraying us, the employers. And they have sold out to the devil in a number of different forms and have now murdered Americans openly. Now, they've done it before. We watched Waco. Everybody saw that on national television, and that was a combination of foreign troops combined with U.S. secret police forces / the alphabet soup agency.
And they later admitted it was a laboratory test, even in Newsweek. And, Mark, think about all the chemical, biological testing, murdering our troops, murdering foster children with radiation, all declassified 30, 40, 50 years ago as they were creating the murder cadres that would even kill their own people.
Exactly. Well, one of the things most important to remember, too, is that if we are seeing, and this is where you got to challenge everybody's mind, Operation Northwood, still the best example. okay? We all have that as public documents that came out. I'd be willing to bet that a percentage already were scrabbled and dragged back in and reclassified by this administration. It wouldn't have made a difference which one was in here. If it was Kerry Ringknocker A or Bushite 2, the adventure continues. Either way, it would have still ended up in the same result that they realized that, well, because the machine is so big, papers were being pushed out. Partially, now I will say this, you got to remember, there's a lot of Americans in the system.
No, we know they're being leaked, yeah.
That's right. People are throwing this stuff out there like, how can we get this to people? Because we had to do this years ago. How